Good morning and welcome back to Tabernacle Baptist Church live virtual service. I am so happy that God has placed all of you here with us. You're watching on your iPhones, your television screens, your iPads, your tablets, whatever. Thank you for being here. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. We have an amazing service coming towards you today. At the beginning of this service, I want to take the time to thank all of our crew that is here, that is making this happen. My brother, my friend, my ace Boone Coon, David Herron. Big shout out to him. Today is his actual birthday. Thank you, David, for all that you do for Tabernacle Baptist Church. Jamel Evans is here on camera. Brandon Brando is here on camera. He was Brandon Jackson last week. He's Brandon Brando this week. I actually got his name right. Sorry about that. We've got Will Kennedy again with us in the back and Jake Swinson on the switch. All of these good brothers and sisters coming together to make this happen. Today we've got a very special message coming from our bishop that you do not want to miss. I promise you this will be exciting. All right, enjoy this music coming from Anointed Voices, and I will be right back at you with Bishop Dennis A. Meredith and our hot topic. Reach up and receive everything you need. God has got it. I want to thank the Anointed Voices for that awesome music. And now we're moving into our conversational period of the service. I have got our special guest, our Bishop Emeritus, Bishop Dennis A. Meredith is here with us today. Bishop.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking.
Glad to be here.
Good, good, good. I understand your message is around the Samaritan woman today and that biblical story. Tell us why you chose to preach about that today.
Because I always say that I'm a philosophy major.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I majored in philosophy and religion. Philosophy is the study of life, making sense of life, basically. And so when we are going through something like this pandemic, the COVID-19, my brain says, make sense of this.
Yes.
And so since I'm a preacher and, I feel like I have, the ability to see, I consider myself a seer. See, anyway, I think to me, to make sense of how we navigate through this, I've tied it to this particular text because I believe that during this season, God is trying to tell us this. Rethink how we worship and put it in a context where it is, where we're actually telling the truth about what this is. Tell the truth about the fluff. Tell the truth about the
pageantry, if you will.
The pageantry that we go through. Tell the truth about what's rituals. Tell the truth about what this is, and stop making people think this is God when this is really an organization, a religious organization.
Wow.
A lot of stuff we do in church has nothing to do with God or worship. It is just a cultural practice, and that needs to be separated. And I think this particular time that we are out of church, basically, and we, trying to come back, this is the time to rethink how we define and practice corporate worship.
So you decided to preach this message because it's about where you think God is leading us as it pertains to coming out of the pandemic and what true worship is.
Right, exactly. Where God is leading us.
So when we come back to church, and that's a long stretch, right? We don't know when we don't know what that's going to be, because in my mind, naturally, the next thing I ask myself, well, what is it we can do now to worship in truth? As we're not able to be in corporate worship.
Now, your worship is personal.
Okay.
That now you don't have to dismiss the practice of worship because you're not coming into a space. Jesus deterred that woman from space and said, you are the space. You
I love
worship.
That. I love that.
You are the church. That's what he was saying to her.
Right.
In my interpretation.
Right.
You are the church. I am the Messiah. You worship me. Not this building, not the practice, not the, worshiping choir and singer. Stop worshiping men. The reason, and men and women in ministry, because that's what we do. The object of our worship becomes people.
Okay.
And so I think that this particular time, us as leaders, pastors, bishops, prophets, leaders in this Christian idea of the church, really it's our time to pull back, rethink where we're going to take this thing for the future. Because if we really honest, like Jesus said, tell the truth, we've messed it up.
So
I want to say something else, but
that's good, and I think you're going to be able to say what you want to say.
See, truth is, if I want to say we effed it up,
yeah, but that would be untactful.
It would be untactful. It would be.
But you could also say we messed it up. But not to get off track.
I can say messed it up. I know what you're saying.
So
that's my true self.
But that's your true self. That's your true self. I don't want to get off track. I think I like what you're on to. So we worship in truth. Truth is us being ourselves. Truth is we don't need the building. Truth is we trim the fat. We don't do we don't do the pageantry.
Yes.
So the first step in real worship, as I understand from you, is being truthful.
That's right.
The second thing in real worship is you don't need a building or necessarily a gathering. Wherever you are,
right.
you worship.
That's right.
So is there anything you would add to that as we're trying to give people something tangible they can take away from this conversation?
Tangible.
We got the first two things.
The first two things.
What is there anything you want to add to this tangibility?
No, can you butt home and worship? What you talking about? Add to it. That ain't hard to do.
So
go home in your privacy, steal away, take 2 minutes and worship. 2 minutes out the day. You don't have to wait till Sunday. That's what I'm trying to say.
I get you.
It's not where you go. It's how you go. It's what you do. And all of this stuff we do is fluff. Now, as I said earlier, I'm not saying that church is not, it's a powerful institution. I think that it's important because it does give us some moral maxim that we should live by, whether we live by it or not. It does put within us some moral concept about how we treat one another and how we
Yes, it could be a moral compass.
Dismiss that.
You don't want to dismiss that.
We don't want to dismiss the moral
Or maybe
compass.
the inspiration of
Or
it.
the inspiration of
Or
it.
the gathering of
Or the
it.
gathering. That is fine. But that's not the end.
That isn't the end.
That isn't the end.
That's good.
The end is Christ.
The end is Christ.
The end is God. And so what we have done is we made this the end all.
The buildings.
The buildings.
The services.
The services. That's the end all. That's why we give the benediction like it's over. No, worship is not over when you leave that space. Worship.
The gathering has been
over.
temporarily disbanded until the next gathering.
Till the next
But the
gathering.
worship experience,
No, the worship must continue.
the worship must continue.
The worship is something that we do on a daily, regular basis. Prayer is a form of worship.
Of course. Meditation.
Meditation is a form of worship.
Absolutely.
And so all of these things must be incorporated in our everyday life.
I believe
just
that
like you eat, just like you get up. Worship should be that consistent with life.
Could this be worship, this conversation?
This is a form of worship. We're talking about God. We're including Jesus Christ. We're mentioning his name. We are teaching. You know, this is a part of, I think, a worshipful moment.
Yes.
Somebody could see this, hear this, and then it puts them in a more reflective moment about themselves and their truth. So yes, this is a worship.
So it starts with truth.
It starts with truth.
What can you, before we move out of this conversation, tell us about truth, because that's where it starts. Tell us about truth and how that pertains to getting to God.
So truth is tough for us. Truth is a hard thing to admit and to own, because you have to not only admit your successes
But you have to admit
without being arrogant, which sometimes is a challenge, but you also have to admit your failures and your weaknesses. And we are not the kind of people that want to admit our failures and our weaknesses, as well as how biblical teaching has convoluted what is truth and what is right and wrong.
Unpack that.
So what I'm saying is, let me just take me for example. I've been told all my life it's a sin to be gay. I'm gay. But I've been told for all my life that it is a sin. But that is my truth.
It's the truth.
It is the truth. And I bring all of that to my worship, my truth to my worship. Even though, early on it was hard to own that truth because the church
And its understanding.
and its understanding told me I couldn't accept that truth. So that's why I'm saying it has sent out so much contradictory messages until it's hard for people to own or to know what is true, because we want to deny our truth. You know, just like people.
That's why these big conglomerates, right? Like the United Methodists, right?
Right.
The split there. The splits with these other
Absolutely.
denominations, Southern Baptists and
Absolutely.
Progressive Baptists, because there's no moral ground, or not even moral ground, there's no fundamental ground on the truth of worship.
Thank you. There is no fundamental ground on the truth of worship. You got thousands
Of different kinds of people.
of different kind of people who interpret worship different. And we don't have, but Jesus gave us.
He did it.
That's the foundation.
He didn't say anything about that
He didn't
woman.
say-
Well, he did say something about the woman's affairs, but he didn't hold those affairs against her.
He never held them
He
against
never got her against her. And if you're honest about just the literal segment of that Samaritan woman's story, she said, "The man that I am with is not my husband."
Right.
She says it first.
He brought her to truth.
He brought her the truth.
Right.
He let her know that, hey, we can have a real conversation.
Right.
He wasn't a pompous
No,
Bentley driving
no,
bishop or
no,
preacher.
no.
He was like, talk to me like I'm a human being. And she said, the man that I'm with is not my own.
Right.
But the end was worship me in truth. Tell your truth. You're not with your husband.
Live your truth.
Live your truth.
Tell
You're not
your
with your
truth.
man. You shacking up. That's okay.
Exactly.
But you can. The steps to get out of that is to own whatever it is
Did he tell
that
her
your
to
truth.
get out of it?
He didn't. That's not what happened.
He did not tell her to get out.
He just
he
said
didn't condemn her.
He didn't condemn her.
He just brought her to truth.
He just brought her the truth.
You manage truth. You manage your own truth. You deal with your truth. And there is, we've said this, you and I have talked about this for many times. We all have a moral maximum.
That's right.
We're all born with the moral maximum. So what I'm saying is you evaluate, you determine with your interpretation of God and Jesus, you come up with what is your truth.
Yes.
And not let somebody else tell you what your truth. I don't care if it's a bishop, a prophet, or somebody else. They can bring you to it, but you've got to own it.
You've got to own it.
And I believe at this point, our worship is ineffective if we stand before God and lie.
Well, folks, that was a powerful conversation. It is a preview to the sermon that our Bishop Emeritus is to bring us later in this worship. Don't miss it. Don't miss the message. If you found this conversation inspiring, if you found this conversation informative, the sermon is just going to take it to another level.
Yes.
So enjoy this music that is getting ready to come your way. We'll be back with announcements and offering, and then it will be this message. God bless you.
Yes, and free. Yes, showers. That's a perfect time. Very good, very good.
Amazing music from Anointed Voices. I love hearing them sing and do their work. They have tore it up here at 1041 Boulevard and over there on 1041 Moreland Drive, as well as on Boulevard over at 475. There was no choir like the Anointed Voices. Now we've come to our announcements. This is what I need you to know for October. We are getting ready for our outreach. Get with Pastor Kasai Brown. We do our outreach every month. At the end of the month, we're going to feed people, give people food. It's a very exciting thing. This is what ministry has to be about. Ministry has to be about helping others. So get ready to participate in outreach. If you want to sign up, again, reach out to Pastor Kasai Brown. We're getting ready to go feed some people and have a good time doing it. Next announcement, every Wednesday, 7 p.m., don't miss it, our Zoom church calls. We do a Bible lesson. We have a prayer meeting. We talk about church affairs. We come together as a family, as a community, and as an organization, and we check in with one another like we're supposed to do. Rebuilding, regrouping responsibly. Okay? Those are your two announcements for this month. Outreach, not for this month, for this week. Outreach and our weekly Zoom call. Now I would like you to get ready for my favorite part of the service, the giving. Yes, the giving. Why? I like to give because I know the law of the universe is to receive. I can hear my wife telling me right now, Taylor, you don't get to give. You don't give to get. But I'm sorry to tell you guys, when you give, that's just what naturally happens. It comes back to you. It is a law of the universe. And I love giving because God never ceases to amaze me with what God gives back in our giving. So, tithers, we're asking that you tithe. Everybody else, if you're not there in your walk, it is okay, because what comes from the heart reaches the heart. Just give what you can. Everything is a blessing. We get to do this wonderful virtual service safely, protecting your lives and our lives, and we also get to give back to our community. What better thing is there to do? So get your offerings. The ways to give is right there on the screen. Give your tithe, give your offering, and we sincerely appreciate it. Okay? Let's keep doing what we're doing so we can take this thing to higher and higher heights. All right, you know what's getting ready to happen? We're going to have a song from Anointed Voices, and then the next voice you will hear will be that of Bishop Emeritus Dennis A. Meredith, and he's got a special sermon for you today, as you heard us talking about in our hot topic. Okay? Enjoy this music. Next voice you'll hear is The Message.
For me. However things turn out to be, as long as you're in control, I know things will work out. They gotta work out for you. If you believe that in this room, can you help me sing it? Let me get this good old timing right. You know, light skinned folk, we can't get the timing right. Whatever you do, oh God, for me. I think we can sing this all over the house. Can you stand up and sing this with me all over the house? Just as long working. It's working for me.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here and thank God for another day to have an opportunity to share with you what I believe is going to be something that can be life-changing. Well, of course, you know, I always feel like all of the sermons I preach is life-saving. So I want you to really, really pay attention to what I'm going to say. It is something that I've been working on, something I've been dealing with. It is something that I talked about last month, but I want to continue it because I do think that this particular passage has not been looked at in a way that, how can I say this, that points to the church in the direction that I think Jesus really was trying to teach at this moment with this woman at the well. I'm going to read part of this so that, you know, I brought my little Bible so we can kind of, I'm going to read some of this. Chapter 4, verse 19 through verse 26. 19. The woman said to him, "Sir, I believe that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshiped on this mountain, and you Jews say that in Jerusalem is the place where you ought. In Jerusalem is the place where you ought to worship." Jesus said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem worship the Father." Did y'all hear that? But the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshipers, remember that word true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. In spirit and truth. Not in truth, but spirit and truth. For the Father is seeking such to worship him. God is spirit. Those that worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. The woman said to him, "I know the Messiah is coming. I know the Messiah is coming, who is called Christ. When he comes, he will tell us all things." Jesus said to her, "I who speak to you am he." So I really want to hone in again on this ideal of worship. So those of you who know your text and know your Bible, know that Jesus encountered this woman. It's called the story of the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman. Her class in society was not that equal to Jews. They were on a lower class status, and so she didn't even expect Jesus as a Jew to be talking to her. I'd like to think that this was, since Jesus is omniscient, he knows everything, I would like to think that this was a planned event, that he knew she was going to show up at this well and they were going to have this conversation. But what is so impressive with this event is how Jesus brings her to her own truth. He asked her a question about the relationship she was in, about the husband. And this interesting response, Jesus says to her, "The one you're with now is not your husband," as if to say the truth about your marriage or your relationship. I don't know how she could have considered him her husband when they have this whole ritual that they go through. But Jesus says this man she's with is not her husband. That was her truth. And he says this prior to him explaining worship, as if to say that worship is not effective or God does not receive our worship if we don't worship in truth. Now, I've been in church all my life. And one of the things I know about the church is that there are so many fake, phony, and untrue people in the church. I mean, really, people. I mean, let's just look at how we don't walk in truth even by the way we dress. We come to church with suits and ties and hats and expensive clothing, and we are adorned because we believe that's what God wants. But a lot of times that's a cover-up for who we really are. You know, we adorn ourselves to make people think we got it together when we don't have it together. We adorn ourselves in clothes to make people think we're wealthy and well off when we're broke and don't have no money. We want people to think of us based upon our appearance, when sometimes our appearance is a contradiction to who we are, which means that even that is not true. So Jesus says, and remember, he goes back, he said we must worship, you know, we use that conjunction in truth, but he says worship truth. That in order to have effective worship, there must be truth there. There must be honesty. There must be integrity. There must be something that we own of ourselves. And right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't care what your truth is. And I said this last third Sunday in my sermon. I don't care what your truth is. You have to be honest with yourself, whatever that truth is. And so many people sit in church and are not honest with their truth. But the church does not want you to be true. The church does not want you to be honest. You know why? Because if you tell the truth about your life, about who you are, whether you're gay, straight, whether you are homophobic, whether you are a homemonger, a whore, you smoke marijuana, you do drugs, whatever it is, whatever your truth is, the church does not want your truth. Because if you tell the truth, you're going to be condemned, you're going to be ridiculed, you're going to be ostracized, you're going to be cut off, you're going to be disrespected. So how in the world can we worship in truth when the church does not really want you to worship in truth? Now let me make a point here about this, about these words of Christ. These words of Jesus predate Christianity. These words came before organized religion of Christianity even existed. It did not come. This organization of Christianity really didn't come or evolve until almost 300 years later. So Jesus is telling people how to worship before organized religion even became a thing. And organized religion is the religion basically that ushers us away from true worship, because you cannot tell the truth amongst the worshipers and then still be accepted by them. So was Jesus indicating, or was Jesus emphasizing worship more in a private context than in a corporate context? Because corporate worship is much too condemning and unfair to people who have issues, who have failures, or who just live their lives the way they think God accepts them. We really can't do it. Now, I'm not talking about what I heard. I'm talking about my own experience in church and how I could not be honest and authentic with who I am, because the context of the church is not a place where you can authentically and truthfully worship and be accepted. I did something, since I've been really grappling with this text. I have really tried to engage myself in more personal worship, private worship of God, where my thoughts and my meditation just centers on worshiping God and centers on what is my truth and how I present that to God. Now, I know this may sound a little more a little too good, because y'all used to, y'all used to these 3 points in a poem and a close. Maybe this is more of a teaching message, but I really want us to think about, what did Jesus mean prior to the organization of religion, or the religion of Christianity, being in an organized state? What did he really mean? Because now the church is influenced because of how we have organized it, how it has been arranged. I want us, even in this COVID state, even in this pandemic, one of the things I've said, maybe what God is doing is actually trying to take us to the place where Jesus was actually talking about. Because we can't go to church. We can't be in a crowd. We cannot, we have to social. I mean, there's so much that has changed the dynamic of how we gather. Is God taking us to a place where our worship is more authentic because we have to do it in the privacy of our homes, or wherever we create an altar, wherever we create a church? Because the church is not a building. It's in you. You do remember what Christ said. Upon this rock, when Peter confessed, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God, Jesus said, on this faith, on this rock, the church will be built. And what he was saying is, the church is in your heart. It's in you. And wherever you go is the church. Wherever you worship is the church. Wherever you park your body to engage in an encounter with God through prayer, through worship, through contemplation, through meditation, through inspiration, that then becomes your moment of worship. Now let me say this parenthetically as I bring this to a close. We think that worship has to be designed. There has to be a pattern. There has to be a place. Like Jesus was telling this woman, there has to be a mountain. There has to be a building. But Jesus was actually saying it does not have to be a space. It does not have to be a place. It does not have to be a building. You are the building. You are the place. You are the institution of worship. So I think at this point, and during this season, and during this time, even though many churches are going in, even though many people are reconnecting, trying to reconnect with this going to church thing, and I'm not saying don't do it, because I do think there is a purpose and a reason for gathering. I just think I ain't gonna tell you what I'm thinking in my head. I just think we've messed it up. And we've turned it into something that was not intended by Christ, which is why there is so much error and so much fault and so much falling away from this institution that has lost its truth and its integrity. So let's hone in on personal worship. How about that? That's what this message was about. How to hone in on personal worship in your home, in your car, at your cubicle, at your desk. It's not a time frame. You don't have to don't frustrate yourself by putting a time frame to your worship. You don't have to organize, I got to have a song, I got to have a prayer. No, you got to have you. It's you and it's God through Jesus Christ, his son. He says, I am the object. Lord, help me. I done found something here. He says, I am the object of your worship. Not the organ, not the piano, not the people, not the building, not the substance in the building. He says, I am the object of your worship. And a lot of these other things are mere distractions from the eye. So let's hone in now on personal worship. Spend a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, however long it takes you to connect with God and have a moment where you show God what God is worth to you. That's worship. That's worship. God bless you.
What an amazing message. The woman at the well. Listen, Tabernacle, this has been with us. We heard Eric talk about helping people and church being about people and being about more than just this worship experience where we come to be inspired. It's great to be inspired, but that is not the means to the end. The end is how we treat our brothers and sisters and how we help those that are in need. And that's what that message was about today. Being your true self. When you're your true self, you're at your best. And when you're at your best, you can be a blessing to others. So we thank Bishop for that message. Now is the time for invitation. If something here was said that inspired you, that you enjoyed, this happens every week. Join up with Tabernacle. Just type it in the comments. We want to be a member, and someone will contact you. You can also email us at admin@tbcatlanta.net. Okay, we want you to join up with us, and this is the invitational moment. Take the time to do that, and you will not be disappointed. Now it's time for our service to come to a close. I hope you enjoyed it. Bishop has already run out the door to go get his food. I can't bring him back up to the camera, but it's okay because it's just time for us to depart from this moment. But no, worship continues. Worship doesn't have to be in a building. Worship does not have to be in a church. Worship is just you and the God in you, and you taking the time to reflect on that and know that, whether with prayer, whether with meditation, or just a conversation about God's goodness in your life. In any event, I will see you right here, same time next week, 11 o'clock, YouTube and Facebook. Enjoy yourselves. Have a blessed week. I will see you again.
But I expect to have some church in this place. Come on, Zion, praise God, pray. All blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures. Him, all here below. Praise Him above. Him above. The heavenly host. Praise Father, Son, oh God, and Holy Ghost. Let the church say amen. Oh, come on, Zion. Come on and lift those voices. Amen. Amen. You may be seated.